Premium takes back in your life on a wonderful Thursday afternoon. I got my man Adam in the house. Mac is feeling under the weather, long week at work, so he is taking the day off. So, thoughts of it, Mac. Hopefully, he feels better. Outside of that, me and Adam is here to hold it down. Lion slate of games to run through with the championship weekend among us and the divisional weekend just wrapping up. We're
Big
going
Bull
to
in the
be
Bronx.
recapping that. Absolutely. We got Alex in the house as always. Thank you so much. Always showing up on time to show the boys some support. But we are going to first off talk about the coaching carousel that's been going around. We got at least two confirmed and then one to soon be confirmed. Already got confirmed that stood in the show in the NFL. And then we're going to recap the college football national championship game and obviously recap the divisional round, and then obviously end the show. Just a little bit of banter, a conversation about what we think is going to go on with the championship games, and if anything else comes up, like maybe WWE, UFC, or anything that that comes to mind, we'll talk about as well. That being said, hopefully your week was good, Adam, and let's just start with the championship game, the national championship game.
I thought we were doing the
Obviously,
coaches first.
oh yeah, coaches. I'm sorry about that. Yeah, let's dabble into the coaches. We have three coaches that is confirmed to be hired. We have Aaron Glenn. He goes to the Jets from the Lions as the defensive coordinator. We have another Lions coach. Is the one that I really want to focus on is probably Ben Johnson, going to the Chicago Bears in division rival, to the Detroit Lions. Absolutely beautiful to see Dan Campbell getting both of his coaches hired. I know Ben was there for a while, and this was the year that I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong, but he had denied some coaching opportunities in the past, and this is the time to go because you had a hot offense, and obviously we had Mike Vrabel going to the Patriots, a former Patriot, former head coach of the Titans. That's going to be a big one to talk about too. But I'm gonna turn the mic over to Adam. You can cover all three. You can talk about one that you really want to cover, whatever you want to talk about. What's your thoughts on these three coaches going over to their respective teams? Which one do you think has the most opportunity to succeed? I know it's only early on, but I'm gonna hand you the mic and have you take over.
Well, there's one that we didn't mention that's pending, and that is Schottenheimer is going to the Cowboys.
Oh yes,
Um,
yes.
he is, he is, he is getting signed and finalized. So it's a matter of time. So that's an interesting one because you know um, the Cowboys had a chance for Mike McCarthy and they didn't get it. So I'm going to see how that one plays out. He's had some experience with the Jets, and now we'll see. He was the OC apparently in Dallas, so we'll see if that means anything. I thought they might have gone with the Kellen Moore. Things could change in the 11th hour, but it's looking like they might hire him. But to answer your question about the three confirmed that we actually know about, who's going to have the most success? I don't know who's going to have the most success, but I will tell you this. I think Mike Vrabel is in a solid spot. He brought back Josh McDaniels. He's already in the Patriots. He's been familiarized with that place over there. He's got his franchise quarterback. And now they're going to try to surround him with weapons and other things going forward. I wouldn't be surprised if they draft a running back in the first round or maybe a receiver in the first round to kind of give this kid weapons on his team. So Mike Vrabel, I think he'll be with the Patriots. I think he'll have. I don't know. I don't want to put a number on it, but I can see him getting that team to be a scrappy team. They may not win a lot of games, but I can see them developing their identity. He's going to be an identity team. Why I think he's going to get a running back in the draft or in free agency? Because look what he did with Tennessee. He built that team defensively. He built that team to run, and this is the best quarterback he's going to have in his tenure. Mac, thank you for putting those in the chat. As for Ben Johnson,
Appreciate you, Matt.
there I don't know if he's going to be as good as we think, and here are a few of my reasons why. One, he came in and he denied a job. Now he denied the commander's job, which is fine. I mean, I guess you have that autonomy to do that. You turn around, or they met him. Whatever happened, the meeting fell through, right? And now he's at a place where he gets to handpick his spot in terms of Chicago. Now Chicago has a nice young quarterback. Everything is good to go there. Their defense is ready to go. Everything is solid. Yeah. Sorry. Anyways,
Good.
sorry, my mid thought. Yeah. So Ben Johnson's here. He's got what he wants. He doesn't have to worry about drafting a quarterback. Like Mike Vrabel, he doesn't have to worry about drafting a quarterback either because they've already got their guys in house. Caleb Williams. Now we'll see what he can do with Caleb Williams. I think they're going to have to get a running back, as they also had DeAndre Swift there, so he's kind of familiar with him because DeAndre Swift was over in the Lions a few years ago, so he might have some familiarity there. So that'll help him do that. He has DJ Moore, Keenan Allen, and the young guy from Washington. I forget what his name, Rome Odunze right now. So his offensive stack. So it's a matter of who you're going to hire as defensive coordinator. He's bringing in Dennis Allen, who's a solid guy. I think he'll have that team defensively competitive. They were competitive last year, but think about it this year. Now you got to have a quarterback, you got a coach, and we'll see what he can do. It's different when you go from being the man in Detroit and being masked by Dan Campbell and his choices, right? Remember? To now
Yes.
being in Chicago. So think about this. If he does that trick play again in Chicago, there's nobody going to come out and blame him and take the blame for the call. No, Dan Campbell is not going to be there to say, hey, man, I made the call. I shouldn't have done that. No, nobody is doing that. You know what will happen? You'll be on the carpet. And if your offense doesn't hum and people are going to be on you from the get-go, you better hope that you have an idea of what's going on. And get that thing straight. What they're going to hope that they have right now is a franchise guy. Caleb Williams, believe it or not, had a solid year. If you look at his numbers, 3,200 yards, I think maybe even more, 3,500 yards, something like that, in between 32 to 3,500 yards and 20 touchdowns. Now, it'll look bad because of records and how he developed, I guess, under there, but you got to think. He got his coach fired midseason. He had an offensive coordinator that, went to head coach. So a lot of turmoil there. Let's hope that Ben
Mets in
Johnson.
the house.
Mets, how you doing? Let's see if Ben Johnson can kind of ratchet it up, so to speak, and clean up some of the things that Caleb Williams did last year. Because if you really watch Caleb Williams' film, towards the end of the year, he started to play hero ball like he was in USC. He'd be running around. He'd look for somebody to throw it. And meanwhile, he's missing guys open in the crossers and the slant routes because he's not prepared every week because his coach was not good. Now you have Ben Johnson. Let's see what he does with this kid. As for Aaron Glenn, this is the one that's most intriguing. I have many conversations, as you know, who's a fan of the show, Chris Bucco, huge Jet fan. So I'm plugged in with what's going on with the Jets. And I told him, listen, I know you don't want a defensive coach because he was like, I don't want a defensive coach anymore. Why don't they get an offensive guy? Aaron Glenn's not coming in to be a defensive coach. He's coming in to be a head coach. And I think that's what they're going to need. Robert Saleh was a decent head coach. He just offensively, he couldn't get it right. If they bring in a good offensive coordinator, I know he's looking at somebody from the Rams tree, and it's possibly also Mark Brunell, who's the quarterback's coach over in the Lions as potential OCs. They have a chance to do some things. They just got to get the right offensive mind in here. And if he's the CEO and he's worried about, their defense was bad. Look, Steve Wilkes is their defensive coordinator. He's going to have that team ready to go defensively with all the pieces that they have. I don't think Steve Wilkes coming in is going to be a bad hire for them defensively. I think they're going to be a good solid defensive team out the gate. I'm not going to put a number on a top 10 defense or any of that crap, but I think they'll be solid. Offensively, Aaron Glenn's already laid out the plan for you. He said he wants to draft a quarterback, whether that's in the first round, whether that's second round, he wants to draft one. So he already understands what's going on, So for me, I think he's the one that might have the most success, but he's under the biggest microscope because it's in New York. And of course, the familiarity is there. Bill Parcells endorsed him, which, a lot of these owners take that guy's word as gospel. So we'll see how it pans out. I think he wanted to come here, and that's always good. It's not like a guy who, was a last minute hire or something like that. He wanted to come here. He got the job he wants. So that means he's going to put his all into it. And this is his first head coaching gig. There might be some growing pains out the gate, but I think he's going to be a solid addition to the New York team. I think he'll command respect in that locker room. There's word that he might want to keep Aaron
Daniel in the
Rodgers,
house. What's up,
which might
Daniel?
actually,
Someone
which
could be
might
my
actually
friend.
work out for him because you bring in Aaron Rodgers, you draft a quarterback, and away you go, right? So we'll see what happens. Aaron Glenn, I think, is going to change the culture a little bit. You're not going to like people are like Robert Saleh was an interesting cat, right? He was just different. Aaron Glenn, you've seen him, you know what he is. He's been in interviews, he's been a player. He's going to command that respect. And because he came, excuse me, from the Lions and knows how to win, he's going to try to instill some of those lessons that he learned over there. So, Jet fans, I know it's a tough year, as with Giant fans as well. But just sit back, relax, and see what happens with this guy. Because for all you know, maybe he pushes all the right buttons, and they get this thing headed in the right direction.
I love it. I have similar takes about all three head coaches. I love the fact that you laid it all out, and I'm going to touch on the coach that I think will immediately have immediately success because he's been there before, and his team is. People may look at his team and be like, "Man, they don't really have talent," but he has free agency and he has the draft to fix that, and to get that better. In Mike Vrabel going to the Patriots, not only is he ex-player of the Patriots, but he has learned from his experience coaching with the Titans from 2018 to 2023. Rumors have it is maybe that he left the Titans because he went to some ceremony for the Patriots and the Titans did not like that. But who cares? He played for the Patriots and he deserves to go to any ceremony that wants to honor him. And there was a bye week for the Tennessee Titans as he was coaching them. They're lost, but I do think Callahan, we'll see what happens with Tennessee. But focusing on Mike Vrabel, I just think the draft order sets up for him to pick a player perfectly at the top of the draft. And yes, absolutely a stud in receivers at the top at Travis Hunter and McMillan. But I just look at Mike Vrabel and I kind of looked at the team he kind of built in Tennessee, and they were respected a lot on defense, and he is a defensive-minded head coach. And I think if he can get someone like Abdul Carter, they're in that system, in the Patriots system, that's just going to be a nightmare matchup for a lot of the division opponents that they do play. And not only that, the AFC in general, I think Abdul Carter is, I'm going to go out on a limb. He is a generational player, and hopefully he can go into a system that can, fit him the best. And I just think that Mike Vrabel having the opportunity at free agency, having the opportunity at the draft, and having a second chance at coaching, which I think he did a damn good job at Tennessee Titans. People forget that just not long time ago, Tennessee Titans was number one in the conference under Mike Vrabel. I think him, and especially getting I mean I like him as a head coach, and I may have dissed him when he was the Las Vegas Raiders head coach, but I think Josh McDaniels is a good offensive coordinator, damn near great offensive coordinator, and I think those two will pair up perfectly with the Patriots. I think Robert Kraft will give them the freedom that they need to get the job done and give them the time that they need. This is a franchise that was just damn near a dynasty. And yes, they're not a dynasty no more, but they're damn near still well respected. And I think he'll get the time to build his team proper, and we can see the Patriots back in the playoff hunt here in the near future. Along with Aaron Glenn, I know what's going to make him good is his time in the league. I mean, like this guy was, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe he was the defensive backs coach under Sean Payton when Sean Payton was still coaching, and then he goes over to the Detroit Lions and he becomes the defensive coordinator in 2021, and he basically damn near changed that culture on defense for the Detroit Lions. It all starts up front in Dan Campbell. But what Aaron Glenn was able to do is make an identity for the defense of Detroit Lions, and now he's going to have to bring that culture into New York Jets. Mac is absolutely right. I can't trust the Jets either. But this is a good hire but we don't know if it's good yet. But this seems to be majority. I think would be a good hire, and when we look back at it, and hopefully he can remove pieces that no longer want to be there, get his quarterback that wants to be there, and get that New York Jets team back where they want to be. It's sad that they haven't won one since Super Bowl III, if I'm correct, under Joe Namath, and I really don't care, but knowing that we have some Jets fans of our show, and obviously Buko, Adam's homie, I do want the Jets to have a little bit of success in that department. So we'll see what happens with Aaron Glenn and the Jets. And obviously Ben Johnson, man, what he did is make offense fun in Detroit. I mean, you looked at Detroit, obviously you had those years of Megatron and Matt Stafford, but it was just hard to watch. And his new school kind of offense that he projected to the NFL is just really just fun. No, Jets, no, that says Giants for life. It just made Detroit football fun to watch. But the thing is, he had the pieces in place, and Adam brought it up perfectly. It's under Dan Campbell. So now we've seen a lot of great offensive coordinators go and become head coaches and not have the success that their predecessor had, or even that the people that basically that they were under had. Dan Campbell is a great head coach, and it's good to see that his tree is starting to bloom. But we'll see what Aaron Glenn does. We'll see what Ben Johnson does. Ben Johnson, like Mike Vrabel, is in a great situation. Aaron Glenn has the hardest job because yes, the Jets have good players, but I just think it comes down to who's closer to win. And with quarterbacks, it makes it a whole lot closer. He has Caleb Williams, and he has the opportunity in the draft to go after a lot of tackles that's going to be there, a lot of offensive line that's going to be there at 10. Or who knows? What if he takes a chance and he fixes the offensive line or tidies it up in free agency, and he does what Adam says. He takes Ashton Gentry there at 10. So now you have a stud running back, a stud quarterback, stud wide receivers. You know what I'm saying? So that Chicago Bears defense is the reason why he came over as well. Watching his press conference, he always had an eye on them, closely looking at them. He thought they were actually going to do a whole lot better this season. But I just think that it's amazing hire for the Bears. It's too close to say it if he's going to make something out of it. But I just think if anybody can do it, that was one of these offensive coordinator gurus. We've seen one in Brian Dable kind of have some success and then totally fall off a cliff. But hopefully Ben Johnson can go and have some success because he definitely has the talent on that Bears roster to get it done. Anything you want to say about the coaches before we move on to the national championship game, Adam?
Nothing else, really. I mean, I know some people are doubting the Jets, and I understand that, and you have your right to do it. But let's see how Aaron Glenn can do it, right? And just let's let him go. Once we figure out, we got to let these new guys navigate their new surroundings, which takes a few. Okay, I want to throw this out there. The average it takes in a new job to assimilate is 6 months, right?
Yep.
So you have 6 months to get a new job, right? So that probably means by June he'll know the entire staff, the playbook, and all that stuff, right? Then you get the new players in and all that stuff. It's going to take them a few weeks to get acclimated. So if they don't have results out the gate, doesn't mean they're not going to be good. We need to understand that growing pains happen. The problem is that the NFL is a win now league and a quick turnaround league, right? Look at the Commanders. You get the right quarterback, get the right coach, you get the right, front office, and away you go in 1 year. You go from worst to first quickly. So I know people are going to be impatient. Give this guy what I say is give all these new coaches 3 years. If by 3 years they don't have what it takes, get rid of them.
And that's reasonable. I love it. Alrighty, guys. Moving on to the national championship game. I only watched half of this game, being that I was at work. I did put money on Notre Dame to cover by 8, but unfortunately they didn't get it done. Ohio State really showed up in this game, and I will say this: Ohio State were the first team to win it when the college football playoffs appeared with 4 teams, and now they're the first team to win it when the college football expands to 12. The college football will expand to 14 in the year 2027. Let's see if Ohio State can get it done there as well. That being said, though, I'll be foolish of me to talk about this game because I didn't really watch it. I watched bits and pieces of it. It was really hard when I had a busy story. So I'm going to pass the mic over to Adam. I just wanted to say this. I'm sorry that your Fighting Irish did not get it done, but there's nothing to hold your head up high, man. In all due respect, they wasn't supposed to be here, and the fact that they got over Georgia, to get over Penn State, to even appear here is respect in itself. So shout out. I don't like giving participation trophies out, but I just want to say respect to the Notre Dame for even getting a chance and almost coming back to it late in the fourth, coming back into the game late in the fourth. But go right ahead, Adam. Take it over. What's your thoughts on the Ohio State Buckeyes winning it all and is now the and the only good thing I can say about this is shout out to the Big Ten, because I guess SC supported the Big Ten, so I'm happy for the Big Ten. We won this shit now. Michigan and Ohio State back to back. Fuck the SEC, but I'll give it over to you, madam.
Well, respect to the Ohio State Buckeyes. OHIO, you won your championship. This seems like par for the course for the Buckeyes. They win the national title every other couple of years. It's them, it's Georgia, it's Alabama. One of those three teams always seems to end up in the big game. As for Notre Dame, great season. But when we say great season, it was, and I hate to say it because the participation you're right. But for those college kids, good for you guys. All right, good for getting there. And
Yes,
what I want to
yes.
what I want to say is this playoffs are going to change a lot of things. And what I mean by that is, one, the college is turning into a minor leagues for the NFL because they're getting paid. Okay, let's put that out there. Secondly, this shows guys like Will Howard, who was brought here to do that. Remember, Kyle McCord, they got rid of Kyle McCord, who went to Syracuse, for this guy because they didn't think McCord, who had a decent year with them the previous year, couldn't get them over the hump to get to this game. So you got him. He was on a heater. I think a lot of people are going to go back and rewatch Will Howard tape, and I wouldn't be surprised if he sneaks higher up in the draft. Because why? You like performances like this. He performed in every game. He wasn't the reason they lost. He was most certainly the reason they won, at least offensively. He was a dual threat. He carried some quarterback powers, did a little running, hit some deep balls. That money throw he had at the end of the game on 3rd and 13, when it looked like the Irish could come back. They said, you know what, screw it, we're trying to win. So they went up in there and they trusted their quarterback, and he delivered an absolute dime to his receiver down the field, and that's what essentially won them the football game. And that's why you pay a guy like Will Howard to come to your program and take him away from Kansas. And I kept telling people from jump, this is why you brought him in. This is why you brought him in. Well, guess what? You look good. It looks good. Ryan Day, hats off to you, and Chip Kelly, your offensive coordinator, who you've been, partners with for years. It's working out for you. And, sometimes you meet a buzzsaw in like Notre Dame who comes into a team who was not necessarily undermanned. They weren't out physical in this game. They just were just not the better team. Ohio State is just that good. It looked like Notre Dame was going to take over. They marched right down the field, score a touchdown. You're like, oh man, Notre Dame might run away with it. Then Ohio State goes right back down the field, and then of course Ohio State makes their adjustments, and that was basically it. Once they made their adjustments, the defense started to get to Ryan Leonard a little bit. They stopped the run game, and even though Ryan Leonard had a good game passing, it wasn't enough. And Notre
Yeah,
Dame
that's what I was. I'm sorry to
go
talk, but
ahead.
that's what I was so bummed about, because it's like the first drive they were controlling the line, they were moving them back. I'm like,
Well, it
okay,
was like an
Notre
8 minute
Dame,
drive. It was like an eight,
yeah,
9. It was like an 8 minute drive, right? And then Ohio State goes down with the remaining 5 minutes and gets into the red zone
yeah,
before the second quarter happens, and you're like, well, this is what we do. And then of course you have adjustments at halftime, and that's what essentially did it, right? Marcus Freeman, I think, is the coach.
yeah,
He
Marcus
did a good
Freeman.
job
Yes,
rallying his guys, but I think they got figured out. And Ohio State is versatile. They can run, they can pass. They have two running backs that are pretty decent.
yep.
They obviously have a myriad of receivers that are fantastic. Their offensive line is one of the best in the nation. And so Will Howard came to play. He didn't turn the ball over, didn't
That's
put the ball in
fantastic.
harm's way. Ryan Day out coached, Marcus Freeman. And it's nothing against Marcus Freeman. You did a great job. You restored pride to a program that kind of lost its way in Notre Dame, right? Notre Dame, for many of you that didn't know, was the cream of the crop years ago. They were the team in college football. And what ends up happening with Notre Dame, because they're an independent, they can be selective on who they bring in. And academically, they may not have the same players on their field because somebody might not be eligible to play on their field. However, Ohio State, not saying they don't care about academics, might have a little bit more leniency on who they decide they want to go with, if you know what I mean. And I'm not trying to say anything bad or anything like that, but Notre Dame has a prestige program that they want to uphold.
Yeah,
And let's
it's almost like an Ivy school. It's not an Ivy school, but it almost is like, I don't know
right,
if yeah, it's
right.
public, it's private. That's why they're not
Well,
a
it's
public,
independent.
but it's
It's an
independent. Yeah,
independent.
yeah,
So it's but you're right. They are not. They're a little bit better than a private school in terms of their recruitment and getting guys in. But with that being said, there are some other requirements that go in that Ohio State
yeah. It's
may
like
not necessarily
when
meet.
you think of Ohio State Buckeyes, you think of football. When you think of Notre
Right,
Dame, you don't think of football. Like you think of football. Don't get me wrong, but like you think of academics. You think
right,
of
and the
religion, honestly,
prestige.
but
Right,
the prestige.
you're
Yeah,
right. You see the cathedral that they have out there,
yeah,
the touchdown Jesus in the background. You got a lot of that going on. And
yeah.
I mean, Will Howard is a Notre Dame, could be a Notre Dame disciple. He loves God and everything like that, as well as he should. But all I'm saying is, when you open the talent pool to people who may not have the same grade point average that you're bringing in, the talent is a little different, and it shows on the field. I thought this was the first time since their last natty against Alabama where I thought they were completely outmatched, outmanned. I mean, that Alabama team was damn near a pro team. I didn't think this Ohio State team was going to be like that, but they came in with a chip on their shoulder. I told Mac that
They were Catholics.
it's true. They say it's touchdown Jesus. What do you want from me, man? That's what they say, not me.
I will say this,
Uh,
and to fall on that point, it's almost as if it's like now we have a transfer portal. Now you have teams, obviously like Georgia, obviously like Alabama, like you mentioned, like LSU that's automatically going to attract receivers. Ohio State's going to attract receivers. I'm happy. I'm so happy that we have a person like Marcus Freeman that can. Now there's players coming out of high school. Now they're saying no. I don't want to go play for Georgia. I want to go play for Marcus Freeman. I want to go play for Notre Dame. They almost had it. You know what I'm saying? When as in back like just 5 years ago, it's you got you got an offer from any of the top SEC schools. You don't even question it. Like you don't even, I'm going to Georgia. Yeah, I'm going to LSU. There's no
I hear,
question.
I hear, I
But
hear what
now
you're
it's
saying.
almost like you have an advantage being that it's a program that Marcus Freeman has built from, I wouldn't say the ground up, but has damn near built a program now where kids want to come to, would want
And
to come
and and like that's what I mean. Chip Kelly. I mean, excuse me, Chip Kelly. He's not Chip Kelly. Brian Kelly, when he was
to.
there, he was brought in to do what Marcus Freeman did. And
Hmm.
did he bring a natty? Did he bring the Notre Dame to a natty? Yes, once. But that wasn't what that was supposed to do. You were supposed to bring that guy in who had success wherever he came from. Forget where he was before Notre Dame, and then he leaves the program abruptly to go to LSU, where he can get more publicity, more notoriety, and it hasn't worked out the same way. The two programs have gone in different directions. LSU hasn't sniffed the playoffs in the last two seasons,
He's at
right?
Cincinnati from 2006 to 2009, but
Okay,
I
right.
remember him from Notre Dame. That's where I remember Brian Kelly from.
Right, and he brought those programs to prominence, and then he goes to Notre Dame to bring them to prominence, and he did an okay job. I wouldn't say it was great, but to touch on your point, it does mean something when you're in the Natty. Guess what? Now you're going to get guys who may want to go to Notre Dame, right? Because
Hmm.
you're bringing it because you want to play with Marcus Freeman in the program that he likes, and the more people that go to the NFL, the better. Now I don't know how much money they have in their NIL account to go buy some players. They have their quarterback in 18 behind Ryan Leonard, so they have that Reese kid, I think. So he'll be there to kind of usher in a new era. But what I'm really getting at is when you think of Ohio State Buckeyes, like you said, it's football. It's a football program. How many you can go across the NFL and name Buckeyes left and right. You don't have this. You have that with Notre Dame, but the difference is like I'm saying to you, is Notre Dame doesn't have the same pop with these teams, and sometimes it gets shown out there, and against Ohio State, that's what happened. But I also believe that Ohio State had a chip on their shoulder. Remember, we were talking about with Mac how they felt disrespected because the someone planting their flag and all that stuff,
Mhm.
and on their field. Well, guess what? That galvanized the team. I guarantee you that coach Ryan Day made that the mantra of what they want to do. It may not come out like that, but no one else is going to disrespect us like that. No one's going to do that. You know, see,
I think,
and lower GPA,
yeah,
a
you
different
absolutely.
motivation and hunger.
When you look at it too, right? It's been like, that last week, right? When it didn't really matter, but they still lost to Michigan. It's almost like the nation kind of wrote them out, like, oh, they lost to Michigan. Who's Michigan this year? A good team, but now you're gonna go into the playoffs and beat a team like Oregon. So yeah, they get past Tennessee and then they beat the fucking brakes off of Oregon. And exactly what Mac was saying coming into the Tennessee game about Michigan planting their flags and the nation ruling them out. That Oregon game was almost like, oh, well, we're here. Like, don't forget what Ohio State. Like, you know what I'm
Right,
saying? And
right.
with Alabama and Georgia out of the competition, it should have been who's gonna beat Ohio State. But instead, it almost became like outside of football theatrics. You know what I'm saying? Where Notre Dame was finally, when they made it and they beat Oregon, then people was like, oh, Ohio State's Ohio State. You know what I'm saying? But it should have
Well,
always been Ohio State's Ohio State.
right,
You know what
right.
I'm saying?
Well, the thing about it is Oregon obviously had that Cinderella season, right? They went
Yes, yes.
undefeated. They did all this hoopla, and I think that game, after they pulverized Tennessee, that was their statement game. That was the game they're like, okay, you think you're the best team? You're wrong. We're the best team in the nation,
Yeah.
and we're going to prove it to you right now. And they beat them by double digits, like almost double the score of Oregon, who again doesn't have the horses that these other teams do have. And these teams that we talk about, Ohio State, Georgia, Alabama, they're like semi-pro teams because most people want to go there. Most people want to join those programs because what's the quickest way to the NFL?
Yeah, you go look at fucking the 24/7 recruitment sports. These 5-star recruits out of high school, like you go in just the top 15, you're gonna see Ohio State multiple times. You're
Right.
gonna see Georgia multiple times, Alabama multiple
LSU,
times,
like
LSU. You know,
these programs we talk about every week. That's why they're on titles. Now Notre Dame has its own kind of niche in the college world. It's almost on a different planet in certain realms when you think about it. But they don't. It's not that they don't get good recruits. I don't want to say that, but if you look at what they do and how they do things, their business is different. And like Nomad says, when you care about GPAs more than the players like themselves, you're going to take less risk on a player that has worse GPA than somebody else because that's what they believe in, right? You look at Ohio. I'm not saying Ohio State has a bunch of thugs running around, a bunch of idiots. No, I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that if somebody has a C average and you need like maybe a B plus average to get into Notre Dame, even though you play football, that guy may not be recruited as heavily as the one that has academics on it. Not saying you're not going to Ohio State for academics. My point is these programs draw from different entities. And it shows on the field when you play when they're bigger, faster, stronger, and you're like, well, why are they bigger, faster, stronger? Think of the programs that they're going to. And Notre Dame is a tough program to get into and stay with. So like look at Riley Leonard. He went from Duke to Notre Dame. He went there from Duke, which no one really likes football there anyways, although they were 9-3 this season, you know, to a team in Notre Dame to get more recognizable and the money obviously for the NIL deal. And the whole point was to do where he did there, and that was bring a competent quarterback to Notre Dame, to South Bend, to kind of navigate them to where they are right now. And it worked out, right? But again, they met a better team, a team that was, had a chip on their shoulder. And again, hats off to Notre Dame. I mean, hats off to Ohio State. And I really hats off to Will Howard. I don't think he's getting enough credit where I think it's due. And I think it needs to be mentioned because he is going into the NFL draft this year. And what I want to tell people about the NFL draft quickly is that a lot of people don't look at tape right away. right? They watch the games, look at the highlights. Now they're going to dive back in, and I guarantee you, if you go back in, the most improved college quarterback has been Will Howard from start to finish. Okay, you had Drew Aller kind of grow up that way, but Will Howard literally, you know, improved every week, and then it culminated in that national title. And I think there's more to come with Will Howard, depending on where he goes in the NFL. It's always about where you go in the NFL and not who you know. And I think that's where we lose a lot of these quarterbacks in the draft because they go to shitty franchises that don't develop them. And honestly, the NFL, from what I've heard, doesn't want to develop you. They want you to be good out the gate because they don't have time to develop you. I'll tell you why. The collective bargaining agreement doesn't allow you to do it anymore. These guys used to come in March. Okay, they used to be able to walk around the facility, work out. They don't come until mid to late April, and they can't even go for extra help with the coaches and stuff. When I was growing up watching football, that was not frowned upon. You can go there, give them the playbook. We can mark up plays. We go on the field. Some of these guys, what happened is coaches started to abuse that power. But you got teams that had dynasties, right? That were prepared. Why do you think the NFL takes 4.5 weeks to kind of get going? Because they don't hit the same way throughout training camp. They have less practices in training camp in the off season, so the product suffers because all these guys need to build a chemistry. Well, if you go watch like the '90s and the '80s, those teams were good out the gate. They had 2-a-day practices. They hit from July to the beginning of September. Okay, straight double time, right? And so when you're there, what does that mean? If you're getting more practice time in, you're getting more reps in, you're getting more sharpened. So that by the time the regular season happens, you're good to go. So, I know we're talking about college football. I'm just saying that's what you need to look at. And if you can be like Will Howard and have these playoff games, which is what you want, big money game. Is that what we talk about every week? I mean, we argue every week about, this guy didn't win a championship and he's booty and this, that, and the other thing. Yet when a guy in college football does it, we don't recognize it the same way.
Let me touch on something too, because I needed to touch on this before we move on as well. And bear with me, guys, because this is just gonna be me giving this kid some respect, and I'm gonna share his image on screen right now, and we'll talk about him. Okay, let's talk about him. Okay, so this is Jeremiah Smith. If y'all don't know, you guys must have been living under a rock. Okay, Jeremiah Smith was a 5-star recruit coming out of high school this past year. He had offers from Florida, Florida State, Georgia, Miami, and my own SC. I was following him really closely because not only was he a 5-star recruit, but he was the number one 5-star recruit in the modern era outside of people like Julio Jones. He chose to play in Ohio State. Some would say before LSU, wide receiver university. What does this kid come in and do? Everybody, including myself, is thinking Ibuka is the number one. Obviously, Ibuka's gonna come. We had wide receivers from Ohio State in the league saying Ibuka was the best at that time in Ohio State. So we're thinking, Ibuka, this is his senior year, his junior year. I'm sorry, he's gonna come. He's gonna ball out of control. What does Jeremiah Smith come in and do? Well, in 14 games as a true freshman, this kid is 19 years old, out of Florida, played at a prep school in Hollywood, Florida. He comes in, true freshman, 19-year-olds, 14 games and 13 starts, 70 receptions, 1,224 yards, and 15 touchdowns. And in the championship game, he had a touchdown with 88 yards. In his first season, he's a true first-team All-American, a Big Ten receiver of the year, a Big Ten freshman of the year, a first-team All-Big Ten, Rose Bowl offensive MVP, and obviously a national champion. That being said, I hope this kid stays healthy. We've seen a lot of great careers in college football and not transition to the NFL. But in a couple of years, give it one more year or 2 more years with the college eligibility, we're going to see Jeremiah Smith, if he keeps up this pace, as a top draft pick coming out probably in 2027, 2028. I just wanted to give this young man his credit, man, because you don't see that very often where a freshman comes in and just balls. And obviously, you had a great quarterback in Will Howard to give him the ball. But my God, Adam, anything you want to say about this before you move on? Looks like he had to go do something. You're muted if you're talking. But yeah, I just wanted to give this kid a shout out because it would be wrongful if we moved past this game and moved past talking about Ohio State without giving Jeremiah Smith, a true 19-year-old freshman, his respect, man. Because when you come in and you ball like that, I mean, like, my God, he took the nation by storm and deserves at least be so being a national champion of the world, should I say. That being said, let's move on. And we can talk about the divisional round that was last week. A lot of great games. I didn't really catch the Saturday slate. So I'm gonna rely heavy on Adam to talk about that one. Adam, when you are back, just say something for I can pass the mic over to you. But
I
until
am
then,
back here
oh,
now.
perfect. Awesome. So before we do talk about the national championship game, I just want to say, do you have anything to say about Jeremiah Smith? I don't know if you heard what I said, but this kid was 19. Absolutely not going to repeat myself, but absolutely amazing season that he had. And that's one name that we're going to hear probably later on in a couple of years coming out if everything goes good. And he stays healthy and everything goes good. But shout out to Jeremiah Smith. And anything you want to say about Jeremiah before we move on, Adam?
Not really. He's a good player and he's at the right school.
Well said. That being said, we did have the Kansas City Chiefs, two-time defending national champions of the world, Super Bowl champions of the world, um, take on the Houston Texans. I didn't really watch much of the Saturday slate. I know the night game is the game that you guys probably talked about yesterday, and we're gonna have the most excited time talking about. But go right ahead, Adam. What's your thoughts on the Tennessee Titans? It's not Tennessee Titans. I'm sorry, the Kansas City Chiefs taking on the Houston Texans.
Well, what I will say is this: I got bits and pieces of the game as well on my phone. I was out on a Saturday afternoon, but I did get to watch most of it. And what I gather is the moment wasn't too big for the Texans. They weren't a team that was intimidated by going to Arrowhead. As a matter of fact, I think they played a solid game, but they got robbed on plays, because of the refs. I don't want to bring the refs into this, but the NFL needs to do something about roughing the passers, do something about, calls that are going to affect the game. You don't want to undermine your referees, but they did this in the Lion game too, I think, with the Rams or whatever. It was the guy got tackled by a shoulder, they called a face mask. Like those plays get replayed. And they're part of the reason why you lose. And some of these plays that were hit, like for example, Patrick Mahomes running out of bounds. The guy kind of pushes, not even a hard hit, he just puts his hands on him. Patrick Mahomes flops, they go on flag. Like, what are we doing? Like, what are we doing? This is a violent sport. Okay. Even Tom Brady was saying it. He's like, you're legislating hitting out of the game. And he's right. He's like, how is the defender supposed to come in and drill you if he only has a small window to hit you in? And then in that window, you're not standing up. Think about this, right? You have from basically the neck, the bottom of the neck to the knees. But that's if the person's standing up. Now the person is, bent over, trying to run you over, and you have to do one of two things: either run the fuck over, or do something that may cost you a penalty. It's hard to play defense in this league because of betting and fantasy and all this other bull crap that they're doing, and it really is taking away from what Kansas City did. Kansas City is a 15 or 14-2 team, or 15-2 team that's now, you're going to have that tarnish where if I'm the Buffalo Bills, I'm making sure that, I understand what's going on. I make sure I tell the refs everything. I make sure my hits are as clean as possible. But you shouldn't have to have that element in your game. And the Texans, I just felt like they were always getting that call at the moment that, like, oh, you got Kansas City off the field, up flag. And it's just like, when you do that and you put the game in the ref's hands, it takes away from the effort. And even D'Amico Ryans and a few of the players, Will Anderson, mentioned it too. And they knew going in that this team gets calls. They knew going in that was told to them, and it still happened. And what the NFL, you need to clean it up. Competition committee next year, listen, we're going to go because you do it with replays. It does a second, right? You could throw the flag for roughing the passer, and then maybe you pick it up. Maybe you pick it up because you have that time where you have a discussion, and as you're discussing the play, no rule, the flag is picked up, no roughing the passer called, blah blah blah. You may get a boo in some stadiums, right? But you may get a hooray in some stadiums because you stopped them, and those momentum plays can change the game. So I thought the Texans did the best they could. They did a yeoman's job. Obviously, it's a daunting task to beat the Kansas City Chiefs, and it goes to show you need to score touchdowns to win. If you look at the box score that Zion has put up, you see field goal, touchdown, or possibly 2 field goals, and 2 points, right? So, they can't have a Bills and Texans AFC Championship game. They can have a Bills and Texans AFC Championship game. I don't give a damn about Patrick Mahomes. I love him. He's one of my favorite quarterbacks, but it takes away from the game. It takes away from what you're watching when you have the refs influence the game the way it is. Matter of fact, it makes you think that the refs are in on it, right? I listened to a clip. I don't know if it was on Instagram, Twitter, doesn't matter where the platform was, but the guy was, and this was in the 80s, the guy was like, yeah, we know about rigging in the NFL and gambling. The refs come up to me and you don't want that to creep into your game because there is a betting line. There is things like he's saying they don't want, the Texans versus the Bills. That should not matter. Okay, that should not matter. It should be if you do well and you make your plays. I don't need to have a bogus flag thrown because it's Patrick Mahomes and he's fucking flopping. Okay, there's no need for that. This game it's hard enough to play defense. It's hard enough to tackle a quarterback, and you do this. It's not easy. And listen, Houston, you'll have your day of reckoning at some point. I think you're building a decent program down there, back-to-back playoff appearances. I know that doesn't mean much because you don't win a championship, but you got to think about and participation trophies as we talk about. But when you talk about building a program and learning how to win, this is what you're talking about, right? You've had playoff success. You've won 2 wild card games. You lost in the divisional round. If Kansas City ends up in the Super Bowl, you can look back in your locker room and say, "We lost to the team that went to the Super Bowl," right? And that's who they're going to be focusing on. They already win the division. Now your sole purpose, D'Amico Ryans, is beat Kansas City. That's what this offseason is about. Beat Kansas City. Does that mean bring in more players? I mean, I think they're going to have to bring in another receiver. I mean, they lost Tank Dell, to that gruesome leg injury. And, I think they need more. They have Dalton Schultz there, but Nico Collins, but sometimes you need a little bit more weaponry. And bringing it. I know that Stephon Diggs was not there. Maybe if he's healthy, maybe he changes the dynamic of the game because now Kansas City has to shade over. And kudos to Kansas City defense. Karl Loftus, he had a hell of a game. And you got to get your hats off to Steve Spagnuolo, who is a phenomenal defensive coordinator. And the reason why Kansas City is on the verge of three-peating is because of that guy. His defensive coordinator calls and things like that. If you look at, like I said, what the Kansas City Chiefs do, this year hasn't been an offensive explosion, but they do enough to win the football game. And then defensively, they have some of the best players in the game. So hats off to the Texans, yeoman's work, but Kansas City is who they are.
Well said, well said. Yeah, absolutely, man. And nothing else to really say about this game. I didn't really watch it that much. But yeah, NFL Kansas City Chiefs looking at another championship game weekend. We'll talk about that game when it gets closer. That being said,
I understand the NFL cares, nomads. What you don't get is that people are going to watch the playoffs regardless. Okay, the NFL is a driving force. People watch it for their fantasy. People watch it for betting. People are immersed. Okay, They had those Christmas Day games, and 24 million people watched both of those games. Okay, so people are going to watch the football games. What you need to do is have fairness in the football game because there's nothing like a Cinderella story, right? Someone coming out of nowhere. You have it on the NFC side. We're about to talk about it, right? You need it on the AFC side.
Well said, well said. Yeah. So get into the NFC side. Boy, oh boy. Man, this one was a shocker to me. And honestly, did you watch the entirety of the game, Adam?
Yes, it wasn't a shocker to me as I picked the team to win.
Absolutely. So I'm gonna let you go and talk about the Detroit Lions losing to the Commanders, and then I'll give my thoughts on a particular player after that. But go right ahead.
So, as many of you know, we were picking the games last week, and my two co-hosts picked the Lions, and I said, you know what, I'm going to go with the team of destiny right now, JD5 and company, who just beat Tampa Bay, right on a doink in. They doinked it off the thing, off the goalpost, and the reason why I said I believed in them is because you know sometimes when you have bravado that is the Detroit Lions, get a little overconfident. Now, if you take away the pick six, right, that would be 7 points. You still win the game 36-31, right? Offensively. They put up that many points. Okay. The Lions turned the ball over. Look at that onslaught that happened. 28 points in the second quarter. That's where this team won, right? And then you start to see the Lions slowly creep back in, 7, 14, 7, and then 3. And then there's the 14-point onslaught again. That's what happened. The second quarter, they came in. Washington, they went downfield, Detroit, real quick. Then Washington comes in, kicks their field goal, and you're like, oh man, here it goes. And then the Lions are doing what they have to do, right? And then there was the pick six. So they go down there, they get a pick six, and they're up 10-7 at this point. Then what happens is that Terry McLaurin comes in, and then that catch and run of 60 yards to put them up 17-7 in the second quarter was where I thought the game was won by the Washington Commanders. Why do I say that? Because the Lions have never been in a chase mode all season. They were the ones that were hunting. Now they were being hunted, and now they had to catch up to somebody else who was on a track meet. And so they just kept pouring it on. What's funny? I watched this game, right? So they do a trick play in the red zone, and this is why they got 3 points, right? They tried to do a trick play in the red zone with Mariota and Jaden Daniels. And it didn't work. And you know what they did? They said, scrap that. We're not doing any more trick plays. Screw this. We're going to do what got us here. We're going to make Jaden Daniels, throw when he needs to throw, run when we need to run, do our offense that worked. On the other side, the Lions, they scored a mostly trick plays, with Jamison Williams, but they also fumbled with Montgomery coming back. He fumbled. There's a turnover in the red zone. Commanders go down and score. They throw an interception with a guy who should not have probably thrown the football, and he technically wasn't supposed to throw the football. I don't know if it was a run pass option for that player, but one coach says he was supposed to run. The other guy threw the ball. So there's always two sides to the story, and there's the truth, right? The truth is it probably was, hey, if you see a matchup, throw it. If you don't, run, right? So he ends up throwing it. That's a pick. Why are you putting a ball in the hands of a guy that can't throw the football? I have no idea. But what I was impressed with was JD5. Why? Because he was cool, calm, and collected. Nothing rattled him. Nothing phased him. No matter what the Lions did, he went back at it, right? And if you look at the team stats, if you were to go down the overview, can you scroll down a little bit, please?
Oh yeah, no problem. Let me go player stats. Team
So,
stats. There it is.
so yes, players. So if you go down to penalties, all right, there was. If you look at the Commander side and you look at the Lions side, the Lions had more costly penalties. Okay, the Commanders did not. They both punted once. They didn't give up sacks. They had 4 interceptions were thrown and one fumble. 5 turnovers are going to lose you a football game. The Lions were out of sorts. They were reeling. And you got to give kudos to the Commander defense, who wasn't, let's be honest, wasn't great. They gave up 31 points, right? But they did enough to keep their team in the game, and JD5 and their offense kept scoring. 27 first downs. If you look at the first downs on the other side, it's 39 first downs, right? Or 35 first downs. You have third down efficiency. You had fourth down efficiency. Both these teams were aggressive. Total plays, like they are basically even, but the score doesn't indicate that. Why? Because of a pick six and how the Commanders played on offense. The one thing I loved that Dan Quinn said when he came out at halftime to one of the reporters, he said, "This is the second half. We're going to stay aggressive and we're going to keep our foot on the gas." And I said, that's what I wanted to hear. Because you cannot then go into a shell. Now, mind you, they were running the football well, but the Lions were getting 10 yards a clip every time they were running. They were getting like 10 yards a clip with Gibbs and Montgomery until they got cute and behind and had to throw. And what was killing the Lions to me was the initial surge of the Commanders going up the middle. Okay, that initial surge kind of threw Goff off his game a little bit, and the fact that they responded to everything and kept it pretty clean. As you see, no turnovers, only 4 penalties for 25 yards. That's going to win you football games. And this team is a team of destiny, folks. A team of destiny. The Lions were the team that was supposed to punch them. Well, guess what? Their podcasters were like, "Well, we're not going to lose this game. We're punching our ticket." Guess what? You don't think people hear that? You don't think they know what's going on in Detroit? They were playing with house money. They played. The Commanders played with the fucking attitude. Fuck it. Why not? We're here. Why not? Why do we got to stop? Everyone's counting us out. And guess what? Next week they're playing with the same fucking attitude.
Well said. Well said. Yeah, you know what I really loved about this game is when I went back and I looked at it, I just love the fact that everybody wants to talk about like the draft and this and that, and everybody has their own opinion in the offseason. But one thing that never changed for the entirety of the NFL, well, I wouldn't say the entirety, but I would say for the last, I would say, half a decade, is it really matters who is at helm at the quarterback position. And back in, obviously it's not about me being a Giants fan and wanting to trade up. It's just in general. Back when the Commanders took Jaden Daniels, we all kind of felt something then, where this might be the kid that can lead them out of the bottomless pit that they were suffering at. And but none of us really thought that he was gonna really have. Maybe we may have said like, oh yeah, he might have like a big season and stuff like that. But we always looking at like CJ Stroud's season, like, oh, there's not gonna be a rookie that can come out and do what CJ did. And not only did Jaden Daniels come out and hit on all expectations, but the reason why I bring it up his name is because when they drafted him, it's almost like the city knew. It's almost like sometimes you just need that little bit of a spark, right? That little bit of hope. And seeing this kid, run for 10 yards just to get a first down, or make what seems to be a lost cause into another first down, it just adds fuel to the flame. And then the flame got bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And who now you're at a championship game, and now the Eagles is the team that everybody is leaning on now to beat the Flame, and the Flame has just gotten out of control at this point because of the fact that they believe. And it all starts with who's throwing the football. I know it starts up top with coaching and the GM getting the player, but they can't play. They're not on the field. It all starts with who touches the ball the most, and that is going to be the quarterback. And what Jaden Daniels has done for the city of Washington, but not only DC, but not only what he's done for his teammates, man. I know I don't really want to give this much props to a division opponent, but out of all our division opponents, Washington been the laughing stock for a while, and this kid had literally sparked the fuel that lit a flame that is now burning, and it's gonna be hard for any team and to stop them, and it's gonna take a proven team. And if you really think about it, who's left? Prove it teams like the Eagles, teams like the Kansas City Chiefs, teams like the Buffalo Bills. This was a shocker. I was watching the UFC fights as this one was going on. but I was tuned in and out. And what I will say is, I'm happy for the Commanders, man. And can we get a shout out to Chris Kingsbury? Like I know Nolan is getting all the credit as he should, first time head coach for Washington, but what Cliff has been doing, like everybody laughed at him at Arizona and oh he's not a good coach and not all of this, but what he is proven to be is a good quarterback guru that understands quarterbacks, understands young quarterbacks. And I know Jaden Daniels had a lot of things coming in that you can't teach, but when you put him and you pair him with someone like a Cliff that just had a Kyler Murray that had a phenomenal career in college, don't care what anybody says, you know what I'm saying? He has a lot of quarterbacks that's playing in the NFL, and Jaden Daniels is right up there with most of them. So that being said, man, for a rookie to do, I think it's only now the third rookie. I think the last rookie to make the championship game, if I'm correct, was Mark Sanchez with the Jets. That's absolutely fun to see. There's another guy, but I'm totally forgetting his name. But there's never been a rookie that damn near won a Super Bowl. Tom Brady
Dan
got in his
Marino.
freaking
Dan Marino.
Dan Marino. There you go. Dan Marino's another one. But yeah, there's never been a rookie that win a Super Bowl. So I believe Ben got in the second season too. I believe Joe Namath got in the second season.
Thank you.
So absolutely. AC talked a lot about that hire before the season. Yeah, absolutely. AC talks a lot. It's just up to people to listen. I know you listen, Mets, but if people don't listen, they don't get the knowledge. You know what I'm saying?
You know what it is, because I have diarrhea of the mouth, so a lot comes out, but there's a little substance in there, right? And if you listen a little bit, you can pick some of the stuff out. But the point that Cliff Kingsbury made, and I had a discussion with a friend, Buko, as you know, we were talking about it, and it was brought up to a reporter. A reporter asked him bluntly, "Hey, you've had some second half swoons in your season with your offense. Are you going to do that?" And he's shown the last half of the year that he's gotten better. And he's my pick for the coach next year for the Giants. If he doesn't get a head coaching job this cycle, I'm pegging him out and saying, look, he can look what he does with the quarterback position. Look what he's doing with this offense. He has one receiver. That's right, one legitimate receiver out there in Scary Terry. He has two running backs. He's utilizing them out of the backfield. Guys are stepping up. De'Ami Brown, who's been
nothing against his running backs, but I mean, like they're not my first choice on many teams. You know what I'm saying? Nothing against Brian and nothing against Eckler, but like Eckler's at his last half of his career, and Brian is a struggling running back at times. So he's out there putting plans together and defeating offenses. Defeating defenses that has the who's who and have been playing great football all year. But continue, Adam. I don't want
to. Before we put a bow on this, I just want to say this. At the beginning of the year, we thought Washington would not be here. We thought they would, we need to see improvement from their quarterback, similar to what the Bears were. I thought they were going to be like the Bears. You got your quarterback, he'd play, you'd be like, all right, they have a future. On to the next thing. You have Dan Quinn here. They've exceeded all expectations and more. And not to mention, they have a ton of cap space next year. So what they can do is they can do what Joe Shane tried to do, but was idiotically stupid in doing. Their team, they're not going to just build. They have $100 million to play with, and they're going to get some big-time free agents. Like I said, they have one viable receiver. They get another receiver in there with Scary Terry. They add more depth to their their O-line. By the way, Bobby Johnson, how's that working out? Okay, like we talk about our O-line coach and him as being a problem, but he's excelling over there. Dan Quinn has changed the culture, and I hate to use that word, but they believe in themselves. Bobby Wagner, who people laughed at me when I was telling you about Bobby Wagner. I said, he's going to change the defense. Oh, but he's washed up. What are you talking about? I said, you don't understand. He's coming in here and he already knows the defense. He don't need to learn anything. All he's got to do is tell the guys believe and we will achieve. And look what they've done. Look what they've done. Do they have superstars on the defensive side? No. But do they make plays? Yes. Are they a bend, but don't break defense? Yes. They're on the verge of snapping. Absolutely. And when we talk about the next game, I'm going to go into some things that people get me upset about. But this team, is a team of destiny. Right now, they are playing with house money. They do not care about anything, anyone. You have everyone in that locker room, and it shows you what happens when you get a quarterback. It's called hope. It's called hope. Okay. And that's what we hope the Giants are doing. I know there's a lot of articles out there right now where, oh, they're going to take Sam Darnold and do this and do that. The Giants need to draft a quarterback, period. Build around the kid. Maybe he gets maybe he gets lightning in a bottle. But next year,
Yeah,
if the
that
Giants have a quarterback under center and he does well, and the Giants are poor in the first 4 games, and you put him in the kid, and he wins a couple games, you're gonna have hope. You're like, oh man, maybe we have something here. So then next year you go into that off season and you're like, we don't need a quarterback right now. Let's let the kid ride, and let's go build this team and see what we got.
You know what? That really irritates me real fast. That there's even people, because I see them too. I see it too, and it just irritates me. At there's people like that's writing articles about us getting Sam Donald, and Sam Donald played for SC, so I'll always respect him as a Trojan. But when it comes for an NFL quarterback, I mean, like nothing against the Rams, nothing to take away from the Rams line. But I mean, like we seen it all there before. You know what I'm saying? He looked like damn near Daniel Jones back there at doing headlights. And
Right.
this team, at the end of the day, with Sam Donald under center, is just going to be a current copy of Daniel Jones under center.
Well,
So,
here's the thing. I looked at the last year's, and not to go off in this little tangent, but
mhm.
I looked at last year's acquisitions for the Giants, and it started with Brian Burns. I think I might actually have the web page up. So give me 1 second to just see if I have that, because I was reading about it, and I was reading about. I don't have it up, but I was reading their lineup, and it was Brian Burns and all these other players. And what I came to the conclusion is they basically paid Brian Burns and then signed a bunch of 1 year to mid tier guys in the rest of free agency. Illuminor, Runyon, these guys weren't like major signings. So if you go out and you sign a Sam Darnold at $100 million or whatever it is, you're not going to be able to sign a lot good players. And what that means is, sure, you might not be terrible at the quarterback position, but you still may not win that many games. And if you bring a guy like Sam Darnold, it's playoffs or bust for this team. If they're not in the playoffs, it doesn't matter if you're 8-9, 9-8. You don't make the playoffs, you're gone. That's it. But if you bring in as somebody on Twitter likes to say, OG, shout out OG Steve. He says, you bring that newborn in here, that changes everything. That newborn quarterback. So you bring in that quarterback that you can go. Then if next year you have a bad year, good. You pull the plug on a guy like Mariota, who will be easy to do. You don't want a guy like Sam Darnold here because if he struggles, you have an albatross contract. We need to learn from
It
Daniel
just doesn't.
Jones,
It
not
doesn't make
repeat
any
our
sense. I
mistakes.
mean, like they're making their death wish if they bring in
Right.
Sam Donald. You know what I'm
Learn
saying?
from the Daniel Jones
Nah,
mistakes. You
those
invested in a big time quarterback in Daniel Jones. It failed miserably, and now you want to do it again. The only way John Mara is giving he's giving you autonomy to get a quarterback. But let's be real. The only way you're going to save your jobs is to draft one,
you got to
because
draft a
then
quarterback.
then John Mara at the end of this can say, I know the record is 5-11 or 5-12 or 6-10, whatever the case may be, 11 with the new game. I saw a quarterback. I believe in the kid. We don't want to ruin the kid. We're going to bring back Brian Dable and Shane for their 5th year, and we're going to try to put more pieces around him, right? As opposed to Sam Darnold comes in, they end up 4th place in the fucking division with a quarterback that looked pretty bad the last 2 games of the year, and he's going to now come here and save us. Give me a break. But we can go on to the next topic.
Absolutely. That being said, I respect Trevor. I think Trevor will do good at another organization. I don't want him as a Giant.
Why do we always want retreads? Why do we
I'm
want
head
retreads?
fast on drafting the quarterback. The only way we're bringing in a free agent is exactly what Adam said. A free agent like Marcus Mariota, that's not going to cost too much money. You draft your quarterback still. You have them develop. Maybe we need to draft the quarterback. We can't keep on doing this like Adam said. And I'm not saying you just brought him up to have a question, and I understand that. But Trevor Lawrence, Justin Fields, I know is another one that people may want. That being said, man, there's a lot. Yeah, it may not be a strong draft class, but let's just hope that we can get someone in here that can actually have us some hope. You know what I'm saying? We get it that we're not gonna get like what we seen last year, but all we need to do is get a quarterback in here, get a couple maybe, and we'll see we'll see where we go from there. Alrighty, that being said, though, we did have a strong Sunday slate as well in the NFL. I believe the first game, where was I? Was it the Buffalo Bills first? They played
Yes.
first, right? Yeah. So the Buffalo Bills versus the Baltimore
Oh,
Ravens.
was it that? Yes, they were the 1 o'clock game.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. It was about snowing, right? No,
Well,
it was the Rams and Eagles first. Um,
okay, there you go. Let's go to that one.
Yeah, well, that being said, we're gonna talk about it. So I just pulled this one up first. Let's talk about it, man. We had the Rams versus the Eagles. Um, Going into this game, I kind of projected that the Rams was gonna turn up, but the Eagles line was just gonna overwhelm them. And boy, was I kind of wrong. I mean, like, yeah, the Eagles got out to an early start, but they have more talent on their side of the ball. But I'm just happy to see them the Rams fight. I'm happy to Jared was it Verse that
Yes.
absolutely was a dog. With the entirety, most of the entirety of the game, he's moving all around. He was the one that was talking the most shit, and he was actually backing it up there for a moment. The Rams was actually in a position to win the game multiple times, but um, the Eagles just came through. They're 16-3 on the season.
Yeah.
What? I don't know why that never hit me till now. But the better team just ended up showing up in the fourth. I'm gonna give the mic over to Adam. I'm gonna talk mostly about the Ravens game because that was the one that I had the most excited time watching. But Rams and Eagles, what you have in this one, Adam?
Well, this game was interesting because as you see, the score is 22-28. The game was, I wouldn't say fairly close, but there were times where it could have hung in the balance. Look at Matthew Stafford there. He had a solid game. I know the snow affected them, but they did drop the ball a lot. There was
Mm-hmm.
penalties, and the defense came through when it needed to for the defense for the Eagles. Right at the end of the game, they had a couple stops, and then of course our man Saquon Barkley
Quickly,
does
man.
does what he does. And that's where they
I
won
will
this.
say AJ Brown was still reading his book on the sideline.
Yeah,
I'm
that idiot. I mean, but that
I'm
idiot
sorry.
is doing it again. I'm sitting there. He's reading the book, and now it's become a thing. And he's like, ha, ha,
Number
ha,
one
look at me.
dollar Amazon. We got the flag holder. You see that, Adam? The flag holder. He's
Right,
holding up.
exactly.
Oh my god!
Like
Continue.
all I'm saying to me is that's going to come back to bite you. Well, yeah. Well, guess what? He has no choice. I'm not kicking the can down the road. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. You don't want any of them, but you don't have to want any of them.
Joe got
But
to
they
pick
need
one. I'm
one.
sorry too. He has to pick one.
You can't. That you got to take a swing. You can't keep kicking the can down the road and say, "Let's go 2026," because half the
I
people
go
don't even know
past
the
that.
quarterback's in 2026.
Facts though. They all. Dude, I had a person tell me they want Manning so badly. Like, come on, bro. We don't know if Manning's gonna play 2 seasons. That being
Right.
said, though, it's funny because as we move closer, everybody's gonna love to see McMillan and Travis Hunter in a Giants uniform. Everybody on God is gonna want to see Carter in a Giants uniform. I'd be like, it might
Yes.
be 50-50 that we should draft Carter and get a free agent and all this kind of shit. But at the end of the day,
Haven't we
guys,
done that? Haven't we done that year
yeah,
after
we've been
year?
on this for multiple times, man.
We don't take
Like,
swings at a quarterback because, like, oh well, no Mets. Like, oh, Joe Shane shouldn't bring a quarterback, so we'll bring in Sam Darnold and be fucking putrid for 3 years. Give me a break.
and
Just
I
take a
think.
guy.
Yeah, I think Carter is going to be an absolutely stud, but we have not saying we have a lot on that side of the ball, but we have playmakers on that side
We
of the
have
ball.
Burns and
We
Thibodeau
have
there.
playmakers, yeah, exactly.
Did we
We
forget?
need a quarterback.
We have nobody signed in the QB position, but you don't want to bring anybody in. But you want to invest money in a guy
Not
like
saying
Sam
him.
Darnold.
I'm just saying those
Okay,
Giants fans that is
right. Well,
gonna
anyways,
want to debate that. Continue, Adam, with the
but
Rams.
if you look at this game right here, 7 sacks given up by that vaunted Eagles off the line. That's
Oh yeah,
Jared Verse putting them in the blender. Now their team also got 5 sacks. The game really came down to Saquon Barkley. It really did.
they really did.
The Eagles were driving and they kind of broke the Rams back at the last part of the game with that 68-yard run because the Rams at that time had a chance. They punted the ball away. They had a slight chance to get the ball back. And what Barkley does, and he just broke the game open. And away they went. And it's what they brought him in here for. We said it at the beginning of the year. This is a Super Bowl caliber move. Well, guess what? They're one game away from the Super Bowl, and he's the main reason why they are where they are. You don't want to tell me that running backs don't win you games. Tell that to Philadelphia, because if they don't have Saquon Barkley, they ain't winning a damn thing this year. Okay, they wouldn't be winning the same with the same veracity. We'd be talking about, oh, look at them limping into the playoffs. Look what they did here. Look what they did there. So he was the catalyst to the game, and that's what he is.
Sometimes people forget too, when you have a running back like a Barkley or like a Derrick Henry, for say like just a running back in general, some people on defense just they get hit enough times. They just don't want to tackle no man. And that just it is what it is. You know
and what you also saw was it was snowing, so they didn't air the ball out that much.
Yes.
Jalen Hurst was not really the factor. He had a big run, but the thing about him is he's a streaky quarterback. When he is on, he's one of the best. When he is off, he looks like one of the worst, right? And the reason why they won this game again wasn't because of Jalen Hurst. It was because Barkley closed the deal out. Now, next week won't be as easy. This game is not really much. I thought LA would have a good, decent chance, and if you judge by the score is probably not indicative of what it should have been. It probably could have been closer than that, but opportunities come and opportunities go, and the Eagles clamped down when they had to clamp down and got the ball back when they needed to get the ball back. And as you saw right there, 2 fumbles lost by the Rams, especially one by the running back when they had momentum. Driving, he fumbled at an inopportune time, and the Eagles got the ball back and scored. And so, if you take those 2 fumbles away, maybe the game's a different game, because maybe the drive continues for, the Rams, and maybe they put up a touchdown, maybe they put up 2 field goals, and the game is tied in the fourth quarter. Who knows? This is why you play the games. But, Eagles continue their march, and I don't really have much more.
Well said. That being said, it gets to our final game of the divisional weekend. It was between the Baltimore Ravens and the Buffalo Bills, and boy, was this you had Buffalo moving the football, held the Ravens in check for a little bit. You had the Ravens going back and forth. I mean, like this game at the end of the day, it really just to cut really short and simple. Lamar Jackson was playing good football at times. Josh Allen was absolutely 2 MVPs going at it. Well, Josh Allen didn't win one yet, but 2 one and ups in the MVP category was going at it. Derrick Henry had his game on the ground. If you look, James Cook had a nice catch for a touchdown. Oh no, that was another game. I'm sorry. James Cook had his shit on the mound, but it really did come down to the fourth quarter. Ravens was driving. A stud receiver that was a stud of the NFL for a while. Obviously, I hate to do this to the guy, but it basically I would say it necessarily did cost him the game. In Andrews, dropping that pass, and not only dropping that pass, but also stumbling a few drives, a drive before that. And when you have a clear, I don't know what it was. Maybe he was thinking of messing up that time before. So when it came down to actually catching an easy touchdown, he couldn't do it, and it's just sad, man. Because at the end of the day, I did really want Josh Allen to win this game because I think the Buffalo Bills has what it takes to win the Super Bowl. You may look at the receiving roster and you'd be like, yeah, who do they have? But they, it works well. Everything works well on offense. They move down the field really efficiently. And if you look at defense, they have a lot of veterans and have a lot of young studs. And I just think they're a well put together team. But when you look at Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry, it was almost like how are they gonna beat them? You know what I'm saying?
Well, go ahead.
No. How was it? What I meant to be like, it's like, how is the team gonna beat a Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry a team? And I know I'm all over the place, so I'm gonna let you go on it. I'm trying to multitask on doing something because I'm making a lineup on the NBA because a game is about to lock on my DraftKings. But that being said, I will end it with this and pass it over back to you, Adam. it's sad to see like Derrick Henry, Lamar Jackson, John, a season that they have go down to a drop fucking pass that he shouldn't have caught. So I'm
Well,
not trying to say cut the guy, but that's fucked up. Go ahead. I'm being blunt. Go ahead,
listen,
Adam.
it was a microcosm of their year, right? As in the first game, they lost by a toenail, right? With the Isaiah Likely catching the ball and going out by a toenail. But what you missed is the Mark Andrews fumble, right? He caught the ball in a big play,
That's
and
what it was. Yes.
he tries to make an extra move, and he fumbles the ball at a crucial time. Where a game like this, you have to be close to the
It
vest.
she spins and then it's like pop. You know what I'm saying? What the fuck are you
Well, yeah,
doing?
you know, the thing is this: all you have to do, you're not a receiver. You're not breaking
Yes.
tackles. Just go down, run somebody over, and get tackled. And what happened was you had the ball out there like a chicken wing, and somebody punched it out, and that cost you drives. It wasn't like that. It wasn't like Buffalo had a great defensive game plan. They just executed when they needed to. And as far as the drop pass, again, a microcosm of the year. Their season would come down to
That
their
is true.
best players dropping the ball, and that's going to eat him up for maybe his entire career. We don't know.
Derrick Henry dropped one too in the first quarter, like a big one too, right?
Yeah, but Derrick Henry doesn't catch the football. I don't care about him dropping the ball.
That's true.
Mark,
But
Mark
it's really on
Andrews,
more. Yeah.
Mark Andrews has a game tying thing. You have the play called now. People are excuse me bitching and moaning like, why aren't you giving it to Henry there? I'm looking at it like this: the play was executed fine. The
Oh
play
yeah.
worked. Okay, it had nothing to do with let's give it to Derrick Henry. It's not like
That
he
was a
got
great play
sacked
call.
or he fumbled the ball or something happened where it was a catastrophe where you could go, well, why did you run it there? Why didn't you run it there? They could have ran it there, but guess what, folks? The entire Buffalo team thought Derrick Henry
Yeah,
was getting the
facts
goddamn
though.
ball. Like, what do we always talk about? Oh, why did you run it? Because they were stacking the line. He would have to do something miraculous to get in, and if it didn't get in, you would have been like, well, why did they pass the ball? They have Lamar Jackson. It's easy to second guess
Look
and
how
play
much people
armchair
they had in the
quarterback.
box. Why did they choose to run it up the middle?
Exactly. Right. Exactly. And so how do we know that the play wasn't changed or that they I think it was a play action fake as a matter of fact, and then he rolled out to his right and threw the ball in an area of where his receiver usually catches that football and he dropped it. Could you say the throw should have been better? Yeah, yeah, but you also got to catch that. There's nobody behind you. You fall into the end zone. It's 2 points. Like at some point, you've got to execute and make a play. And the bottom line is, it worked. I'm not going to second guess the play when it worked. I'll second guess it if he threw it out of bounds. I'll second guess it if it was the throw in the Super Bowl, Marshall Lynch. Instead, you threw a slant route. This was a wide open play. It was no defender around. There was nothing. He was there. He catches the ball. It's a 2 point conversion. We're talking about what a classic comeback by the Baltimore Ravens. Instead, it's like what an epic defeat by the Baltimore Ravens, and now we're second guessing. I like that Lamar came out and said, "I'm tired of this shit. I'm tired of losing. I'm tired of all this bullshit," and he should be. I hope he takes that energy into next season, and they take that energy into next season, and they get a better defense, and they add more weapons on the offensive side, and they become the number one seed. And I think if they're the number one seed next year, they would be in the driver's seat. And I think you know, you know, I would have loved to have seen them go up against the Kansas City Chiefs, but again, we got a classic matchup with Buffalo. But hats off to the Bills. But let's call a spade a spade. This play was basically this game happened on 2 plays by Mark Andrew, which will live in infamy if he doesn't rectify it or whatever happens. Right? I don't know. This could change a man's psyche. Sometimes it happens. Remember Ace Ventura? They had Ray Finkel, the laces in, right? And it changed the whole dynamic and everything like that. Well, guess what? That's going to be replayed and replayed and replayed. I guarantee you, he pays for his food in Baltimore now because I would make him pay. Like you dropped the ball, you owe me double the money. If he won that game, it would have been comp. But people are going to remember it. He's never going to live it down. So let's see how he responds. But we're off to
That's
the
facts.
AFC Championship game.
That's facts. Absolutely. Alrighty. So we have the first game on Sunday. We have between the Washington Commanders, who is flying high right now, and the Philadelphia Eagles. I'm just gonna start off, and I'm gonna just say this: fuck the Eagles. I'm going for the Commanders here, because I hate the Eagles, and I like Jaden Daniels. He's looking great. And even if Jaden Daniels wasn't the quarterback, I would still want the Commanders to win because I respect them. Their fans are nicer. They're not assholes. Not the fans I know personally, the Eagles fans that I know on YouTube. You guys are great people. But I mean, the fans at Lincoln, you guys are fucking assholes. I mean, like I seen a video where a guy punched someone in the face just because he wanted to, and that guy was from Canada. Like, who gives a fuck? Well, let the Canadians come down, take a vacation without punching the guy. That's assault, motherfucker. It's like, come punch me in the face. I'm fucking 6'2", 250. If you have the balls to come punch me in the face, then fuck it. But I won't be the idiot that goes to an Eagles game because they're dumbasses. But that being said, I will take the Eagles. I will take the Commanders. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to boast the Eagles fans, but fuck, they deserve it. I'm going to take the Commanders because they're hot. I like what they'll be doing. And, I mean, like Adam said, I mean, like, fuck, dude, they're going to be hard to beat with the flame that they got going right now. But go ahead, Adam.
Listen, the red wave is coming, okay? And I want to talk about this last week. I know a fan came on our show yesterday and was like, well, they beat the Eagles only because they had Kenny Pickett. I'm like, no, bro, your defense is number one.
That's right, 1-1. I'm sorry.
Your defense was still out there, wasn't it? Your defense didn't make the plays at the end of the game that stopped Jaden Daniels. You had a chance. You dropped the ball, but you kicked the field goal. So you relied on your defense to stop Jaden Daniels. He went downfield and scored and won the game. So you can say about Kenny Pickett, Tanner McKee, whoever came in, oh, yeah, we would have scored more points. Guess what? It didn't happen, and now you have to worry about this team come fucking Sunday. They're coming with it. Like I said, they're playing with house money. Whatever happens to them is great. They either win and they punch their ticket to the Super Bowl, or they lose and they can pat themselves on the back, say, "Damn, what a fucking ride! Let's restock and get ready to run this division next year." Right? And so for me, I'm picking the Commanders. You know me. I've picked them for both playoff games so far. Wow, third time's a charm. Let's see what they do against Philadelphia. Philadelphia cannot play like they played last week and had that sluggish start against this team and expect to win. This team will put up points. They've done it every year. They're going to do it again this game. They have familiarity with each other. Commanders have confidence. They just beat the best team in the conference. That means something. They're not going to worry about you, big bro, in Philadelphia. They're coming. They're like, this is my time, big bro. Step aside. I came here. I fought my way to this position, and we'll see what they do. So, Commanders, enjoy your ride.
And I will say this to give them a knowledgeable take. The Eagles better hope they're not playing from behind because they probably will be playing from behind in this one. As good as Barkley been playing, the Commanders' defense is coming in here pretty hyped up. They got the whole city behind them, and if the Eagles are playing from behind, I mean, like AJ Brown ain't gonna have time, like Adam said, to read that book really this time because if you really think about it, like he's been so out of the game plan this past couple of fucking weeks that it's you're gonna see a lot of stumbling. You're gonna see the Commanders really come in here and kick ass, but you never know with the Eagles because they were at home and they were a tough out for anybody. But we'll see what happens, man. We'll see what happens for sure. That being said, it brings us to our next game. This is the one I'm excited about as well. We have the Chiefs that is going to be 3-time defending champions of the AFC if they get it done and win another AFC championship weekend. But that being said, though, Buffalo Bills, man, they may not have the best roster. They may not have the best, coach in the NFL, but what they do is they get it done because they have one of the best quarterbacks, a damn near alien out of Wyoming that all he grew up doing is playing football, and he's ready for another game. Everybody wants to talk about Taylor Swift, but at the end of the day, Haley Seinfeld is hotter, and she is engaged.
Who the hell cares about Taylor Swift?
Yeah, exactly. She is engaged to Josh Allen, so she'll be in the building, and I think he just beat the best team in football this year, even though the record shows you 16-2. The football just landed the Chiefs' way. I just think the Ravens was one of the best football teams this year, and I just believe that Buffalo Bills is gonna get it done, and it's Josh Allen's year. I have him winning the Super Bowl straight up, period, point blank. I had that when beginning of the year. If I believe you can rewind it, I honestly think it's his year. And who else to stop the dynasty than in his tracks? Stop the repeat. Go out there and beat the Chiefs. One thing, do not. It's not easy. I'm not saying it's gonna be easy, but I mean, like game plan should just circle Travis Kelce. Just get him out of the fucking game. Just get him out of the game, period. Because if you get playoff Kelce out of the game, you do have a chance. Now, the Chiefs has the best receivers they ever had in Patrick Mahomes' history of being there. They don't have their best one that is still injured. So you go out there, you stop veterans like Hopkins, you stop rookies like I forget his name, but Watson, and he's not rookie, but you stop all the receivers. You know what I'm saying? They got Marquise Brown's there. It's Juju's there too. I mean, like this has become like a collection of veterans with a mix of youngins. So, but they're stoppable. And the Buffalo Bills, man, who else but a better team to stop them? I respect Mahomes. I mean, like we're probably gonna see. I mean, like, if you want me to gun to my head, it's Chiefs versus Eagles in the Super Bowl. But what I want is Buffalo versus Washington. So I'm gonna ride with Buffalo versus Washington. Go right ahead, Adam.
I am on that boat. I familiarity is key in these games. They beat them in the regular season. I wouldn't say that took the monkey off their back, but that worked. And what it means is they've been to Arrowhead before. There's not unforeign territory to them. But when you beat a team, even though it was a regular season, and you slay that dragon, now when you go in, you have nothing to lose, Buffalo. You have nothing to lose. No one expects you to win. Everyone expects Kansas City to go there and three-peat. So why don't you make your own history, make your own destiny, and write it? Make it so. And I can see them winning. This game is hyped. This is what they wanted. This is what Buffalo wanted. They wanted to see Kansas City. They wanted to be in Arrowhead. They fought this hard to get there. You're one game away from your 5th Super Bowl appearance in franchise history. Go get it done. I'm going with Buffalo because I think Kansas City, while I do think the refs are going to play a factor in this game, I think Buffalo has the firepower and the quarterback power to overcome. Right? To overcome. But Josh Allen is not afraid of the Kansas City Chiefs and is not as intimidated as other teams will be. Now, granted, the Chiefs are who they are, and it's going to be a tall task, but to me, I'm behind the Buffalo Bills. And as Chris Berman says, nobody circles the wagons like the Buffalo Bills.
Hey.
Circle those wagons. Let's go. Go into Arrowhead, bring a big upset, and we'll see where the chips fall, where they may, and maybe you'll be landing yourself at the Super Bowl.
Absolutely. Well said. Well said. Before we end the show, because it's about that time, I do want to say a few things, and I'm going to hand the mic over to Adam if he wants to touch on a few things. The few things that I wanted to say is London Games has begun, and boy, did we have a good one earlier today. I ended up peeking in and watched a little bit of it. It was 140 Spurs taking on the Pacers, 110. Spurs ended up winning away with it. Reason why that was important to me is because the Pacers was just on the streak. I mean, like winning, I believe 8 of the last 10. The only 2 teams they lost to is the 2 teams in the NBA, in the Cavaliers and the Boston Celtics. But when you go to Paris and you got Victor there at home. Reason why I want to touch on this game because what an absolutely stud he is in his second season. Absolutely getting it done today at home in Paris. 30 points, 11 rebounds, 6 assists. You know what I'm saying? Averaging, a shitload of points a season, 24.4 with about 3 assists and 10 rebounds a season. This guy is special. And the reason why I'm bringing his name up too is because I was watching this game and he just dribbles down the court in a matter of 5 fucking steps because he's 7 feet. And he just pops a 3 like he's fucking Steph Curry and it goes in. We have never seen that before in the history of the NBA with a big. I have to play a video next stream. I'll see if I can chop it up. It won't be copyrighted or anything like that. But god damn it, when it came to big shooting 3, I mean, like Shaq is 100% because he only shot 1. He's 1 of 1. But bigs don't shoot 3s. They don't really shoot 3s. And obviously the NBA has changed and all of this kind of shit. But to see a guy to shoot threes. Victor has more threes made than dunks this season, and that's damn near impressive. And I seen in 2 minutes this guy blocked 3 shots like it was nothing. I mean, like, man, shout out to Victor. He's absolutely he had an amazing first season. He became an all-star. Definitely on tracks to an amazing all-star, but the history of bigs and injuries hasn't gone so good. So I know he's only in the second season. Shout out to Greg Popovich, because I didn't know he just had a stroke, but they're saying, if you know Greg, obviously he's just fucking one of the best coaches. So he's fighting to get back at his age, and I believe the Spurs, obviously the not 500, but if they have a chance to get into the playoffs. But I'm just saying, in the next couple of years now, let's not jump to conclusions. Red Victor, anything is possible with that roster. So I just wanted to give a shout out to the Spurs, and the second game will be on Saturday. The Pacers have the chance to get back to Spurs and get a win there in Paris. I do like these international games. I know back to the NFL, they do have some international games announced coming out next year. I believe they announced that they're going to Italy. I believe Miami Dolphins was on the teams going to Italy. So it's good to see in the world dominated by like cricket and soccer, which is the real football, I guess. It's good to see American sports kind of come out and branch out to other international markets. But I'm going to pass the mic over to Adam if there's anything else you want to talk about before we end the show today.
Listen, my closing thought is the Giants need a quarterback. They're going to have to get one. They have to look under every rock, every stone, and make sure you get one. Take a swing in the draft. People forget that it's easier to build a team. If you look at the teams in the playoffs, all of them have first-round quarterbacks minus one. Okay, that's Mahomes, Allen, and Jaden Daniels. You saw what Daniels has done for that franchise. You see what Caleb Williams and Drake May did this season, what Bo Nix did. They're all picked in the first round. Don't not take a swing. Take a swing. See what happens. Maybe you could have the next Jaden Daniels. And if the guy stinks after a year or two, guess what? You're going to probably be in a position to pick another quarterback, so you just do it again. We do it with every other position. We draft a receiver. Even though we drafted 10 receivers, we draft another receiver. But does anybody care that we draft 10 receivers? No. But we get mad about, don't give up assets for this guy or that guy. Let me put this into your head. And this is what I'll say.
I'll be right back in like 1 minute. Well, hold it down. Sorry.
Eli Manning. We gave up assets for Eli Manning. Guess what happened? We got 2 Lombardis out of it. Okay? He wasn't even projected to be he was the number 1 overall pick, but some people didn't think he was the best quarterback in the draft. But the Giants went up and got their guy. And then shake a little ass to do it. But at the end of the day, they did it. And we forget about that. And then 6 years later, years later, we sit on a quarterback for 6 years who's absolutely garbage, repay him. And now people are like, let's wait. There will never be a perfect situation to pick a quarterback. Never. And quarterbacks are always going to have flaws. That's why they're the quarterback. It's up to your coach to define who that may be. If that's Kyle McCord, if that's Jackson Dart, if that's Shedeur Sanders, if that's Jalen Miller, whoever that may be, come away with somebody so this franchise has hope. And that's my final thought. Thank you, Jerry Springer.
All righty, I'm back. Well said. I missed some of it, but I heard some of it. But yeah, that being said, we were going to end the show there, guys. Thank you so much for joining in on a wonderful Thursday afternoon. We're going to say a shout out to my man, Max. He couldn't be here today, but, he'll be here next week, next time we talk. That being said, first up for our man, Jeffrey, always representing on the show, always, in our hearts, in our thoughts. Basketball season is tipping off to be a good one here in the second half, and we definitely are going to think about you, and we'll be watching it. That being said, salute to the chat. Thank you guys so much for watching, so much for being here. Salute to my host, Adam. We had a great show, great time talking. Treated it like a phone call and had a really good time doing it. That being said, you guys have a blessed evening wherever you guys are watching from. Peace. Let's get it. And thank you.
We can't do it as well. We can't do it as well as Mac, right?
That's facts. I was like looking for the intro. I'm like, no, where is it? All right, let's get it. Bye-bye.